Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something. I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this week's edition of Next on the Tee. I am really grateful that you're here and that you press play on this week's episode. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and I'm especially grateful for some wonderful news that came my way this week. I was notified by the Academy of Interactive and Visual Arts that the show won the Award for Excellence at this year's Communicator Awards for Podcast Host, and the Award of Distinction for Sports Podcast Episode and Specials. Folks, words can't do justice for how grateful and how excited and over the moon that I am that the show was recognized with these two awards. It's incredibly humbling. God is indeed good. To him goes all the glory. But I also know that this show, and the reason that you press play on it each week, is due to the tremendous guests who join me each and every week. Essentially, this show is what it is in my mind for three reasons: the grace of God, my wonderful guests, and you. I know I say it every week, but it comes from the bottom of my heart, folks. You guys are the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts. And that support in my weekly guest list turned into awards like these. So thank you for making the show what it is and for allowing my guests and I into your speakers each week. I'm so excited and filled with gratitude. Anyway, it's a happy day and a happy week, but let's get into this week's show. When I tell you that this week is packed with heavy hitters, it's not only not an exaggeration, it quite possibly could be an understatement, and here's why. In part one, I'll be joined by two of the all-time great PGA professionals, and by all-time great, they might literally be 1 and 1A. Leading off is Bob Ford, who is a PGA Professional Hall of Famer. Bob is actually in 4 Hall of Fames so far. He's also been recognized by the Sports Writers of America with the William D. Richardson Award for his many contributions to our game. He won the Bobby Jones Award back in 2017, which may be the highest award in our game. He's also been the head PGA professional at both Oakmont and Seminole. His PGA professional coaching tree is taller and wider than anybody ever. Whether you're aware of it or not, you've heard him every year at the U.S. Open since 2017. That's the year the USGA first started inviting him to be the starter of the U.S. Open, and they're allowing him to keep it for as long as he'd like to be that starter. And then on top of all of that, he's a fantastic human being. This week, Bob and I talk Masters and the U.S. Open, which is coming up back at his home in Oakmont, the first time he's had an opportunity to be the starter of the U.S. Open at his home place in Oakmont. We hear what he expects to see of that week. Plus, Bob is a Yinzer, so we touch on the Steelers at the end of our time together. You're going to hear that and so much more from Bob. Again, a wonderful, wonderful human being. Can't wait for you to hear that segment. It's coming up here in just a moment. Following him, another all-time great as an instructor, as a leader, and as a person on the planet, and that is Suzy Whaley. Suzy is also a Hall of Famer. She's in the Connecticut Golf Hall of Fame. She was the first female president of the PGA of America. She's annually a Golf Magazine Top 100 instructor. She's about to captain the U.S. Junior Ryder Cup team, so we'll hear about those things. Plus, she recently was on the bag for her niece, Phoebe Brinker, at the Augusta National Women's Amateur, so you'll get to hear about that experience as well. Plus, we'll talk about the potential of a women's Masters tournament. Could it be? Could that be something that we are kind of inching our way towards? You'll hear me ask Suzy about that. Plus, there are other current job vacancies that I think she is going to be perfect for. You'll hear about those as well. She joins me about 30 minutes from now. Then in part 2, I get a long overdue return visit from LPGA Hall of Famer Jane Geddes. Jane is another wonderful person. She is so positive. I love the enthusiasm in her voice, and she's a fantastic storyteller as well. She makes every segment that she has been a part of this show so much fun for me to be a part of. I hope you've enjoyed listening to them. If you haven't, go back and take a look at those as well. I get her thoughts again on the Augusta National Women's Am. We'll hear her thoughts about that. She's another candidate that I think would be perfect for the vacant LPGA commissioner position. A few years back when Mike Wan was stepping down, Jane's name was bantered around quite a bit back then. We'll hear about it now as well. Jane and I also go back to her first win on the LPGA Tour, which, oh, by the way, happened at the 1986 Women's U.S. Open. She won it in a Monday playoff over Sally Little. You're going to hear about that amazing story and the signs of the apocalypse that happened that week. It was everything short of locusts and the Four Horsemen showing up. We'll also get into the legends of the LPGA Tour that Jane helped get started and serve as commissioner for a while. I get her thoughts on last year's Senior Women's U.S. Open, which was played at Fox Chapel up there in Pittsburgh, and then we'll look ahead to this year's U.S. Open out in San Diego. I love Jane, and I'm sure you're going to too after you hear this segment of the show. So a lot of great stuff in store for you this week here on Next on the Tee, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in and taking the journey with me. Okay, but before we get into this week's show, I want to start off by giving a shout out to our good friends over at the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. TribLive.com is the leading news website for Western Pennsylvania with news around the clock. Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, a podcast network, which you can find Next on the Tee on. So go out and bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trip Live app for free and stay up to date with all the news in Western Pennsylvania and this show. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. Iron City beer, best enjoyed while enjoying life. And folks, this year, get ready to experience the game like you've never experienced it before at the Keep. It's the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course up at Macklemore. Nestled high atop Lookout Mountain, the Keep offers breathtaking vistas that are even more spectacular in person than they are in the pictures and the videos. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round there is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore this year. The Keep is open for preview play and it's waiting for you. But you gotta hurry now because spots and availability are filling up fast. So don't wait. Check out both courses, the Highlands and the Keep, for yourself online at themacklemore.com. And then do yourself and your buddies, or yourself and your family a solid by getting your spot reserved now. And experience distance and forgiveness all at once with the new QI35 driver from TaylorMade. QI35 is designed to give golfers more distance from more of the face while maintaining maximized forgiveness through high MOI designs. Whether you're looking for low spin and maximum workability or easy launch and plenty of adjustability, it's available in low spin, core, and max models. QI35 also has a full assortment of fairway woods and rescues to deliver distance and forgiveness throughout the top end of your bag. Check them all out online at TaylorMadeGolf.com. Okay, now back, and it's a huge honor for me to say this for the 6th time with me here on Next on the Tee, is one of the greatest PGA professionals of all time and a guy who is a living legend in our game, and that is Bob Ford. Bob has been a great player and instructor for over 5 decades, grew up in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, played his college golf down at the University of Tampa from 1971 to 75. He was inducted into their Sports Hall of Fame in 2006. He was also inducted into the Allegheny-Kiski Valley Sports Hall of Fame in 1996, the Western Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame in 1998, and the PGA Professional Hall of Fame in 2005. As I'm sure all of you know, he was the head professional at both Oakmont and Seminole Golf Club, two of the top courses in the world. As a player, Bob won the Pennsylvania Open 3 times. He played in the U.S. Open 3 times and the PGA Championship 10 times. In 2017, he was awarded the Bob Jones Award, which is presented annually to the individual who demonstrates the spirit, personal character, and respect for the game exhibited by Bobby Jones. And I couldn't be more honored. I get to have him back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Chris, where do you get all that stuff?
You've done a lot of stuff, my friend. Your bio is long and distinguished.
That's great. Thank you. That's awful nice of you. Thank you.
Bob, I want to start our time this week by going and looking back at this year's Masters tournament. Pretty exciting final round, a roller coaster if you're a Rory McIlroy fan, and I know you are. Over the years, you heaped a lot of praise onto Rory, calling him our Arnold Palmer for his play and doing all the right things out there. So I'm guessing you are pretty excited he won the tournament and completing the career Grand Slam, but maybe give you a little bit of agita along the way.
Chris, I honest to God, I have never been so exhausted watching a golf tournament. Emotionally, he just had me absolutely out of my mind, drained. I was so excited for him. I was at such heartbreak for him on 13. And, he just kept making mistakes. And then he hit great shots like on 15 and 16. And, oh, my God, it just drove me out of my mind. But thank God he won. He's got that monkey off his back. And I look for him. He's playing this week in Philadelphia in the Truist, and he's got the PGA, and he's won 4 times there at Quail. So he could light it up. He could run the tables. It's exciting.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you next. I mean, as we look ahead to the rest of the year, and look, he's had a year that I said prior to the Masters, if he won it, they should just go ahead and hand him the Player of the Year award right there. I mean, he won at Pebble Beach. He won the Players. Then you win at Augusta National, you win the green jacket, you complete the career Grand Slam. Here you go, Player of the Year. But then as we look ahead, to your point, he's won 4 times at Quail, including the last 2 Wells Fargo championships. Obviously, we've got the U.S. Open a little bit later on this summer in Pittsburgh up at Oakmont, but he's a straight driver of the golf ball and hits it an awful long way. So he's got a really good chance there. And then the Open's in his backyard in Northern Ireland. I mean, this could be an historic year.
It really could be. I mean, it's exciting. If he wins the PGA, I mean, Oakmont will be out of, just be out of our mind up there. It'd be so cool.
So as we look ahead to Oakmont, you've been the starter for the U.S. Open for several years now. What's it like for you when you get to be up there each morning, greeting the players, the caddies, the throngs of Bob Ford fans are going to be there because it's back at Oakmont? What's that like for you to be up there with that podium, if you will, and with that stage and getting to announce the players every morning?
Well, I can't wait to find out what it's like being at Oakmont, because that'll be the first Open at Oakmont that I will have done that. But, past years, this is my 9th one, and I have a ball. I have a ball greeting the players, introducing them to the USGA president or chairman of the championship committee. And it's a real thrill for me to do anything inside the ropes at a major championship is cool. I'd carry their scorecard. I'd do anything to be in there. I volunteered in 71 and 73, just to volunteer to be at the Open. And, lo and behold, I get to work at Oakmont, and I got to play in a couple of them, 3 of them. And it's just been an extraordinary run for me with the USGA.
Are there certain players or caddies that you get excited to see when they walk onto the first tee for that first round on Thursday morning?
Yeah, the guys that I know. I don't know everybody, and there's a lot of players that are kind of first time to the U.S. Open, which is really neat. I try to make them feel really welcome. I try to, cheer them up, and they're all nervous as heck, as I remember when I did it. And, to have somebody calm you down a little bit on the first tee is really important. So that's kind of my job.
Will you get to play a practice round with any of the players? If someone were to walk up to you and say, hey, Bob, I'd sure love to pick your brain and go out and play out on the golf course, will you get an opportunity to do something like that?
No, I won't. Only contestants are allowed to play, but I am going to walk with Rory one round. And, he doesn't have to ask me anything, but And I'm going to walk with Noah Kent, who was the runner-up in the U.S. Amateur. Is how he got in the Open. He's goes to the University of Florida down here, and just a wonderful kid I've known since he was 13 or 14, and trying to do everything I can to help him maneuver around Oakmont, which is not easy.
Speaking of kids, what about local Pittsburgh and Central Catholic boy Neil Shipley, who got his first win on tour a couple of weeks ago at the Suncoast Classic? Is he a guy that may wander up to a Bob Ford and say, hey, help me understand the strategy and what it's like to try to play, not only just play Oakmont, and I'm guessing he's had an opportunity or two to get out there and play, but play it under U.S. Open conditions?
Well, it's really different, the U.S. Open conditions. Neil Shipley is a wonderful kid that I think the world of, and he actually joined Oakmont as a member this past fall.
Wow!
So he caddied there, for a few of his college summers. So he's played it a lot. He knows it well. He plays with the young guys that all hit at 300 like him, and it's kind of out of my league now. I mean, it's just another world the way these guys hit the ball.
Bob, I saw Bob Pompiani of KDKA showing on social media that the rough out there at Oakmont is currently measuring 4.5 inches, on its way to 5 probably by tournament time. If they were to hit it in there, the grass looks so thick that you could lose a golf ball and lose one not that far off the fairway. Talk about how difficult the U.S. Open rough is there at Oakmont, not just to advance the ball, but boy, you've got to then try to navigate the greens, which are sloped from front to back, rolling a 15 plus, I'm sure, on the stimp. How tough is that Oakmont rough going to be?
Well, it's going to be brutal, Chris. I remember back in '83 when I played on Wednesday, Jack Nicklaus had screamed bloody murder to PGA Boatwright, who was running the championship that week. And said, the rough's outrageous. I mean, you got to cut it. And our superintendent and our club president that year and PGA Boatwright got into quite a tussle, where our club president was telling our superintendent, you work for me, and these guys are gone next week. You're going to have to deal with me. You're not touching the rough. And PGA was there. Look, we control the rough, or we control the golf course. It's not your decision anymore, and I want you to cut it. And it kind of went back and forth. It wasn't very pretty at the time, and certainly influenced the agreement between the club and the USGA going forward, that they had full authority to do as they seemed fit, not as the club president or grounds chairman of the club. So yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be, I saw some of the social media posts from today. I'm still in Florida now, but yeah, I mean, you can lose your golf ball out there pretty quick. And, besides that, when those guys play, there's going to be golf balls in the rough, from our members losing them. I just hope nobody gets to hit the wrong ball,
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll all be losing balls the next 6 weeks, leading up to there'll be a lot of balls in the rough. So,
wow.
Yeah.
When Dustin Johnson won the U.S. Open there in 2016, he finished 4 under par. Prior to that, in 2007, Angel Cabrera won it at 5 over par. Ernie Els was 5 under when he won at 94. Where do you think the winning score is going to be around this year?
Chris, I got 2 scores for you. I got a wet score. If the golf course gets wet, like it did when Dustin played, there'll be 5 under. And if it's dry, like when Cabrera played, which is the only Open I've been there, this will be my 6th Open. It's the only time it was dry, and he was +5. So, if it's dry, it's going to be over par, and if it's wet, it's going to be under par.
Yeah, I got to imagine if it is dry out there and the greens are running a 15 plus and the rough is the way it is, anybody that's anywhere near par would take it right now.
Absolutely. I got a cute story for you about 16. I don't think we talked about this last time, but Justin's brother, Austin, came in May to play the golf course. He's his caddy. And he played the golf course. He came into the shop, and a gal runs the shop there named Annie. And he took a head cover up to her to buy that had all the past champions on there. And she said, "What? why are you buying this? You should wait till your brother wins. I'll have his name stitched on it, and I'll send it to you. Why don't you give me your address?" And Austin said, "Lady, you don't understand. I just played here for the first time ever. My brother's never been here. This is the hardest golf course I've ever seen in my life. My brother has no chance to win." And he won. And we did a radio show with Taylor Zarzer, in August. We went down to Florida and got Dustin and told him that story. He said, "You're kidding me. My brother said that?"
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned 73 a minute ago. You started working at Oakmont helping Lou Worsham that year for the U.S. Open, which was the year Johnny Miller made that unbelievable charge on Sunday, shooting 63 to win it. What do you remember about that week, your first Open experience, and did you get an opportunity to follow Johnny as he was making that run?
No, Chris, I was working. I was working in the merchandise tents for Mr. Worsham, and I was putting together those periscopes, that had the little mirrors in them so you could see over people's heads, and I must have put together 5,000 of those things. But what I remember vividly, I remember a couple of things. Nicklaus and Palmer both came in really at the same time, not together, but a couple of minutes behind each other, to pay homage to Lou Worsham. And, they came to the counter where I was standing, and it's Mr. Worsham here. And I said, "Yes, there he is." And, to see those guys in our golf shop head on, I was 19 years old. I was out of my mind. And when Johnny Miller started shooting that score, I was in the shop again. And I said to Mr. Worsham, I think they've run out of black numbers. All they're putting up there for Mr. Miller are red numbers. And he said, "No, son, those are birdies." I said, "You got to be kidding me." Couldn't believe anybody could make that many birdies out there.
A few years later, in 1978, John Mahaffey, who was a wonderful friend of this show, he won the PGA Championship, which was held that year at Oakmont. He shot 66 in the final round to catch Tom Watson and Jerry Pate. He would win it in a playoff with a birdie on the second hole. What do you remember about that year and John's win?
Well, I remember Tom Watson making the turn with a big lead, and he double bogeyed 10, and then went on to, not do so well the rest of the way, and ended up in a tie with those guys. The other thing I remember vividly was standing on the porch watching Jerry Pate come up 18, hit a beautiful shot in there about 18 feet below the hole, hit it up about 3 feet, and then 360 his next putt to force a playoff. He was going to win outright, but he three-putted from under the hole. It's just staggering, as great a putter as he was. And when John, when he won on the second hole, he was above the hole on number 2. And he says, I'm sure you've heard him say it, he said, if that putt didn't hit the hole, it would still be rolling today.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was, he's a great guy. I've loved John Mahaffey his whole career. And, a lot of ups and downs for him. But that win at Oakmont was a biggie for him.
The course played host to the U.S. Open again in 1994. That was Mr. Palmer's final U.S. Open appearance. The heat that week was off the charts. As Mr. Palmer was doing his very emotional final press conference, the infamous O.J. Simpson chase was going on simultaneously out in L.A. A lot going on in the news and sports that week. You and Mr. Palmer were very good friends. As it was a very emotional send-off for Mr. Palmer, it had to be very emotional for you as well to watch him playing in his final U.S. Open there in his backyard. What was it like for you that week?
Well, I did. I've seen it, like everybody over and over and over when he had the towel around him, and kind of got a little emotional there. But, it was an unbelievable moment when he came up 18 to watch the fans, the love, the adoring, and just an incredible man and incredible impact on Western Pennsylvania golf, golf around the world. Arnold just made everybody feel so comfortable around him, and made you feel like you were his best friend when he talked to you. And that was his charm. And he was just an incredible guy that we miss. When 16 came around, you remember he died in the fall of 16. And the Friday before the Open started, I took Devin Gee, who was going to take over for me. And I drove him up to Latrobe Country Club. We had lunch with Arnold. And he said, we're going to play in August. I said, yes, sir. I can't wait. Obviously, he hadn't played in quite a while. But yeah, it's just a bone-chilling time to spend with the king. Nobody like him ever, ever, ever again.
You've won a lot of awards over the course of your amazing career. A couple of the more recent ones stick out to me. Last year, during the height of Masters Week, you were presented with the William D. Richardson Award, which recognizes the individual who has consistently made an outstanding contribution to golf. And then a few years ago, the Bobby Jones Award, which may be the highest award in our game, given to you on top of all the other wonderful things you've done. You're a member of many Hall of Fames and that sort of thing. But I wonder where the Richardson and the Bobby Jones Award rank for you as you look back across your career.
Well, thanks, Chris. They're great memories. They were incredible. Both phone calls to both of those awards were like, you got to be kidding me. It's amazing. And, for the sports writers to honor me, I was great friends with Tim Rosafort, who incidentally, we've got a charity outing for him this coming Monday at the Floridian Golf Club up in Stewart. And, the proceeds go to scholarship in his name to First Tee Kids. So Timmy was, this Open will be really the first Open that he won't be at my house. And, he always stayed with us. And, I think maybe, possibly my relationship with Tim had a lot to do with that award because he had passed away a couple of years prior to that. But, the press has been incredibly great to me through the years. And, I realize how important they are to people's careers and their history and whatnot. And, I was fortunate to be at such a famous place like Oakmont and Seminole. And, yeah, that was an incredible award. The Bob Jones award, Diana Murphy called me in December of that year and told me that I won that award. And I sat there thinking, you got to be kidding me. I just can't imagine. This can't be true. And, but it was, and it's an incredible evening. Actually, Rosie did my Q&A for me because I'm not very good at speaking. So we did a little Q&A and Rosie did it for me. And he his Alzheimer's had already quasi started, although he did a great job for me. And yeah, I'd say both those awards, at the end of my career are just phenomenal. Can't thank all those people enough.
I have to imagine, as much as I've gotten to know you over the years, equally as fulfilling is when you look at your coaching tree, if you will, all the PGA professionals that you have helped make their careers blossom, moving on and moving up within the ranks of the PGA professionals. When you look at what your tree must look like, that has to be something that fills you with pride to know that not only did you have an impact on our game and an impact on so many as an instructor and the places that you've been, like at Oakmont and at Seminole, but the impact that you've had on so many lives that have grown and prospered in our game, thanks to Bob Ford.
Well, it's nice to hear, Chris. I get a lot of credit for it that I don't think I deserve. The fact that those kids' resumes come from Oakmont or Seminole goes right to the top of the pile because of those clubs. And I'm going to take 5% credit, and I'm going to give 90% credit to those clubs. I'm going to give the other 5% to our members at both those clubs because our members really took great pride in watching that all happen and participating in it and making phone calls to all the people they knew around the country at all those clubs. And that's really what did it for those kids. But, it's a great legacy for me. I love now in my retirement going around and seeing those kids and, watching them grow. I was one of those kids and I was just luckier than most. And I felt like, it put me in a position of, I'm not going to call it power, but position of leadership that people listened. And, when I would call and say, this is Chris Mascaro, he's a great kid. I mean, he's a great player and does a great job for us at Oakmont. He could take my job over tomorrow. And, it meant a lot to the people on the other end. And a lot of the kids got hired. And whether it was me calling or Jack Welsh calling or, Ed Stack from Pittsburgh or Rod Pyatt, uh, you know, it means a lot. And those kids had a big advantage.
Speaking of people who took over for you, Matt Cahill took over there at Seminole. Our mutual wonderful friend Tom Patry speaks very highly of Matt Cahill and enjoys him very much. Talk about Matt and him taking over for you there at Seminole.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that Tom Patry's a good friend of yours. I'll let that slide. But
I appreciate that.
Both these kids, Devin worked for me for 8 or 9 years. Interesting story how he got there. My staff in 2006 or 206, something like that, was filled going into the spring. And Jerry Hogg from Methodist University called and said, "Bob, I've got an unusual request for you, but I have this young kid whose father was just killed in February. And I had him set up to go to Medina in Chicago, but his family lives in Maine, and I don't want him to be so far away from home. Is there any chance you could take him?" And I said, "Jerry, you need me to take him, I'll take him." And Jerry Hogg was one of the great guys in golf, and we took so many of his. He gave me the creme de la creme, and every kid that he gave me was a 10. And so Devin worked. He never left Oakmont. He worked the next 8 or 9 years under me and ended up taking over. His game developed. He developed as a man and as a leader. He was a very obvious choice to the people at Oakmont. They didn't even run through a search. And, it's kind of a funny side lane. He went down to Seminole for 4 winters for me. And this particular winter, which might have been 2015, he took over in 2017. I said, "Devin, I need you back at Oakmont full time." His head sagged a little bit, but he said, "Hey, whatever you need, I'm in." And what you want to hear, right? I get up there at Christmas time. He'd been at Oakmont, for the fall, winter season. And he was kind of dragging a little bit. And we had lunch. I said, "You and I can't have any secrets, Devin, if this is going to work. And I want to know why you're so upset. You're not yourself. You look depressed to me, and you need to be honest with me." And he said, "I really miss Seminole." And I said, "Well, partner, you better get used to it. You're never going back." And I think that was kind of a slap in the face, ice on top of his head. He snapped out of it, and he realized it, and he got over it. And good for him. I don't know if he knew that he was the heir apparent or not, but when push came to shove, he was the obvious choice. And Matt Cahill was the same thing. My boss down there at Seminole was Jimmy Dunn, and Jimmy kept asking me for 5 names of the top 5 guys in the country, and I kept avoiding him. And finally, he said, "Okay, I get it. I get it. Matty's the guy, and we're going to give him a chance." And he did. And Matt Cahill, both those kids are just incredible kids, incredible players, incredible teachers, incredible passion for the profession and the game. And I couldn't be more proud of both of them.
Bob, just a couple more before I let you go. And you know that this show is available back home now in Pittsburgh in the Pittsburgh Tribune Review Sports section. And Pittsburgh Brewing and Iron City Beer is also a show sponsor. Both are a dream come true for me, being a Pittsburgh kid. My roots mean a great deal to me, and I know they mean a great deal to you. Even though you split time between Pittsburgh and Florida, I know you're a Yinzer at heart. Talk about the pride that you feel being from the city of Pittsburgh and being from Western Pennsylvania.
Well, that's my home, Chris. I'll always call it home, and I'll always go back. And no place like it. No place like people in Pittsburgh. They're solid people. They're down to earth. They're, I just can't say enough great things about them. And Pittsburgh's been great to me. I wish our ball clubs all would be playing a little bit better. Our Pirates are no good, and the Penguins have gone down to shoot, and the Steelers have not been good for too long. And I mean, they're okay, but we're used to champions, and it's a city of champions, and we need our ball clubs to come back in good form. But I love Pittsburgh, and I'll always be a Yinzer.
So I got to follow that up with getting your thoughts on the Steelers draft. To your point, we're used to being Super Bowl contenders every year, and it seems like we've settled for mediocrity over about the last 15 years. How do you feel about the state of the Steelers, and what do you think of their draft?
Well, you never know about the draft. Look to me like they did a good job. I think every year I've been very optimistic about it, but I'm not a big fan of our coach, and I think he's a winner, but he's not a champion. And to have every year be a winning record is not good enough in Pittsburgh. So I'll leave it at that.
Bob, before I let you go, after the U.S. Open, what else is on tap for you this year?
Well, it's a good question. I do a few things. I do searches for clubs for their managers, superintendents, and professionals. So I stay busy doing that. I work for a clothing company called Straight Down in the golf space, and just kind of as an ambassador for them. And what else do I do? I'm the chairman of the championship committee for the Pennsylvania Golf Association, and I really enjoy that. And go to some of their events. So those things keep me busy, and doing the starting for the Open is a fun week for me. So sadly, summer goes by fast, and the winter goes by fast. The years are going by fast, Chris.
That I agree with. Yes, the years are going by fast.
Yeah,
Bob, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. It's always a huge thrill for me to get to spend some time with you. I treasure it every time I know it's coming up. I hope we get this privilege with you soon, and I hope I get to see you out at Oakmont here in a little over a month.
Come to the first tee and say hi. And I know you've got Suzy Whaley coming up next, and tell her hello for me. She's an incredible leader herself. She's just done incredible things in the game. We're so proud of her, and tell her I said hello.
I will absolutely do that. Take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Take care, Chris.
Thanks, Bob. That is the great Bob Ford, folks. They don't come better than that man. And my next guest as well, by the way. Bob has taught so many people and helped a ton of PGA professionals advance their careers. His PGA professional tree is tall and wide. You can see why I call him a living legend. And I'm not the only one who does that, by the way. We need more people like him, not just in our game, but in our world. Have so much respect for Bob Ford, not just, like I say, as a PGA professional, but as a human being. Being around him in person is like being around Vince Lombardi or Chuck Noll, to make it more personal to the city of Pittsburgh. He's very special to me, and I look forward to hopefully, like I say, seeing him at Oakmont next month, and then hopefully getting him back on the show a little bit later on this year. Coming up next is one of the all-time great women in our game, and that is Suzy Whaley. Before I bring Suzy into the show, I want to remind you about our wonderful friends over at On Point Golf and their out-of-this-world On Point Golf Ball Marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only three-dimensional ball marker out there, with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your three-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an On Point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use On Point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. Speaking of someone who was very special to me, now back in Next on the Tee is another one of the all-time greats, another one of my all-time favorite guests, someone whose enthusiasm and bright smile energize everybody around her and make every situation better, and that is Suzy Whaley. She's also had an amazing career in our game, starting with her college days at the University of North Carolina, where she lettered all 4 years. She graduated with her degree in economics. She played on the LPGA Tour for a few years in the early 90s. In 2003, she became the first woman to qualify to play in a PGA Tour event since Babe Dietrich Zaharias did it back in 1945. She qualified by winning the Connecticut PGA Championship. She's won just about every tournament there is to win in the state of Connecticut, including the Women's Open 3 times. She's competed in the USGA Senior Women's Open and the Senior PGA Championship. She's annually recognized as one of Golf Magazine's top 100 instructors, as well as a top 50 instructor by Golf Digest and the LPGA. She is a PGA Master Professional. She's recently been the first female president of the PGA of America. In the summer of 2022, she was inducted into the Connecticut Golf Hall of Fame. You've probably heard her in the broadcast booth over the last few years, where she makes every broadcast that she's a part of infinitely better. And she is now the president of Golf Nation, which is a wonderful platform. Please go check it out online at golfnation.com. And I couldn't be more honored to get to have her back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Suzy, thanks for coming back on the show.
Well, you are so sweet. Thank you for having me.
Did you hear Bob Ford? Bob Ford wanted me to say hello to you. He was in the first segment.
Oh, my gosh. Talk about an icon, right? I mean, just an unbelievable golf professional who has done so much for so many of us and for the game. So what a treat to hear him at the end. And I did hear him say hello. And of course, I say the same right back to him. And anytime I'm around Bob, I get inspired to do something a little bit better.
Suzy, I want to start our time this week with a recent different job you had, looping for your niece, Phoebe Brinker, during the Augusta National Women's Amateur. What was it like being on the bag and sharing that experience with her?
Okay, well, first we have to say that I had to carry a Duke bag.
Yes.
And so that was issue number one I had to get over because I'm a Tar Heel Chris. But I told her I would carry it, but only for her.
Did you break out in a rash? Did you have to put some ointment on? What was that like? That had to be awful.
Oh, my goodness. I know, right? But I got over it quickly, and it was one of those moments that I'll cherish forever because it was her 4th time playing, which, number one, I'm so proud of her for her accomplishments. But she had graduated from Duke. She's working full-time in Boston, and certainly, golf hasn't been first priority. Her new role, she's a paralegal in Boston and hopes to take the LSAT soon and head off to law school after her 2-year program's over. But I'm just so proud of her for qualifying for it. And then when she asked me to caddy, it was such an honor. And we just had the greatest time ever. We enjoyed it. She played some great golf. She didn't make the cut, but I got to be on the bag with her, and it's something I will always cherish.
So I'm guessing that wasn't your first go around there at Augusta National, but it might have been the first time you had to lug a golf bag around that course, and that's no easy walk at Augusta National. And now you got, and I understand the Duke bag, for what it was, but still, it's a heavy bag up and down all of those hills and the side hills and all of that. That had to be brutal.
Well, here's the good news. I only had to caddy at Champions Retreat, which is where the first 2 rounds are. The practice round that she has the opportunity to play, whether you make the cut or not for the Augusta National Women's Amateur, you do get an Augusta National caddy. So I had the best of both worlds. I got to be with her, but somebody else got to carry the bag at Augusta National, which was great.
As her caddy, and also I'm imagining a coach on some level, right? You're one of the great coaches in our game. When she's out there playing, whether it was just the first 2 rounds of that tournament, are you giving her instruction as things may not be going the way she wants, or do you kind of leaving that like, look, my job now is just to caddy and give her yardages? We can talk, game and swing and stuff like that on the practice range. How do you delineate between the two?
Yeah, I think the nice thing for me with Phoebe is Phoebe grew up with us in the summers. She would stay with us in the summers in Connecticut. And so since she was 9, has had to listen to me. And so she's used to it. And, we always talk through it. And if she needs help, I'm there for her. But she's such a great ball striker that I didn't need to offer much. It's more about keeping her strategically in the right places when she hadn't played so much golf, and making sure that, we didn't take risk where we didn't need to, but that we did take some risk where we did. Her short game just wasn't up to snuff when we did miss the greens, but again, she played beautifully for how little she's been able to prepare. And it was nice for me to be able to just remind her how good she really is when she needed it.
Suzy, there was a time when women weren't allowed to be members at Augusta National, and now there are. Plus, we have this wonderful women's amateur tournament held there each year. I feel like we're inching our way towards a women's Masters tournament. We saw that they could hold a tournament there later in the year in November. They held the Masters in November during the COVID year back in 2020. I know we need to be happy for what we have, but do you think there's a chance that we could see a women's major being played, or women's Masters at Augusta National somewhere down the road?
I mean, I think that at one point we were saying, perhaps there would never be female members there, and there are now. So I certainly don't have any say in whether that happens or doesn't happen. I am incredibly thankful for the opportunity these young ladies have, because for me to be able to watch my niece play Augusta National 4 times is pretty incredible. And thinking back on 20, 25 years ago, would I have imagined that? I wouldn't. So I don't think it would be fair to me to say whether they would or wouldn't have one. I think they've done incredible work with youth, being partners with the USGA and the PGA of America on drive, chip, and putt. I think they've done incredible things for the amateur game and the professional game in Latin America. And all they've done around Augusta with the Augusta colleges and with the women's golf program at Augusta right there in town, and the men's golf program right there in town. So, I mean, they've given a lot back that I'm not sure everybody's aware of how much they're doing within the spaces in golf, in helping raise the bar for junior golf as well. So, I mean, I think we all hope so. I certainly hope so. Whether they do or don't, though, I applaud them for the work and the great work that they're doing to date.
Suzy, I had the privilege of having your wonderful daughter, Jen, on the show last fall. She's absolutely fantastic and doing great things with Callaway Brands and Topgolf. She wrote a wonderful article recently on CallawayGolf.com about helping women feel more comfortable out on the golf course. But update us, how's Jen doing?
She's great. She is actually currently overseas. And so she's doing wonderfully. And, I never imagined Jen played collegiate golf, but didn't have aspirations to turn professional or at that point in time to be in the golf business in any form. She wanted to be in business, went off to grad school and did that. And then called me and said, by the way, I'm going to take a trip out to Carlsbad. I'm interviewing at Callaway Brands, and my husband and I are like, what? And so it was just this cool moment for us because, we already thought we were a pretty nerdy golf family, and now we know for sure we are.
Suzy, you're set to captain the U.S. Junior Ryder Cup team in September. Play is going to start at Nassau Country Club and finish up at Bethpage Black, which is obviously the site of this year's Ryder Cup. It's going to be held right after the Junior Ryder Cup, in fact. How excited are you to captain our junior team?
I am so glad you brought it up because I am beaming about this. I cannot wait. I have an obsession with captaining teams. I had junior league teams that I've loved to captain. I captained the PGA Men's Cup team and the PGA Women's Cup team for the PGA of America. It's something I just truly get so excited about, and I cherish the opportunity to be a part of it. And I cannot wait to get to Nassau, and I cannot wait to get to Bethpage because the junior girls and the junior boys that will participate on that team, that won't be decided until after the PGA Junior Championship this year in August. It's a 1-year qualification period from last year's PGA Junior Championship. So TBD on who will be on that team. But I am so looking forward to it. My husband, Bill, I have chosen as my assistant captain, who is a longtime golf professional as well and has coached hundreds of children onto college scholarships. So we just can't wait to be around the energy of these young, they're becoming adults, but these teenagers and their families and the atmosphere that we know Nassau will bring, and anyone who lives around Nassau who will come out and watch. No ticket necessary for the 2 days at Nassau, and then the unbelievable privilege and honor of playing at Bethpage on Thursday, their singles matches.
So, Suzy, let's take that a step further, because I have to admit, you look great in the red, white, and blue, and I know Angela Sanford is going to be the next captain of the U.S. Solheim Cup team, which is going to be over in Europe next year in the Netherlands. But in 28, it's going to be back here at Valhalla. Captain Whaley would be awesome. Any chance we could see you leading that team?
I don't think I have the qualifications to make the Solheim Cup captaincy, but if they need anything at all about Valhalla, I'm there to help.
All right, speaking of jobs that could use Suzy Whaley, the LPGA is looking for a new commissioner. I keep thinking to myself, I know a great lady who would be perfect for the role. They came calling. Would you be interested?
I think they're pretty far down that road, Chris. I've had a conversation with a couple people who I think are really hoping to get that role. I'm not in that mix, but I can tell you of those that are currently in the mix, I think that the LPGA will be in very good hands.
All right. Well, I'm biased, but I think Suzy Whaley is the best choice.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you.
I know you get excited about teaching, whether it's young people or any one of us, because on top of helping us play better, you really relish the opportunity to change people's lives and change people's lives through the game of golf. Talk about why that gets you going so much.
It's interesting. When I was growing up, I never imagined that I was going to be a golf professional. I wanted to be a ski racer and race in the Olympics, and that was where my priorities were. And then through high school, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, played a lot of golf, but only for a couple months a year, 4 or 5 months a year, but played well enough to be recruited for colleges and went off and played in college and still didn't really think I was going to have golf as my career. I thought I was going to go to law school like Phoebe wants to. And, the world just takes turns sometimes on you. And I played well in a professional LPGA event as an amateur and went off to tour school instead of law school and got my tour status the first time I tried. And it was one of those moments in time where you think, oh my gosh, now, I never really had planned this, but now what? And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I didn't play well that first year on tour. I lost my card, but I think in the time period of going back out on tour after losing my card and kind of finding my way, I lucked into working for Jim Flick and Bob Tosky at the Nicholas Flick Golf Schools, where my husband was the golf professional. And it was truly life-changing for me because it was the first time I had an opportunity to watch coaches at that elite level being coaches, being in front of these people and just trying to help them as best they could in the moment they had to do it with an unbelievable high level of skill. And to me, it was intoxicating. It was this ability to be able to talk to someone in a way that made them joyful, that gave them hope, and it was through golf, right? I mean, you think about these things about changing somebody's life and you think it's far greater than that. But I always find in the smallest moments in a one-on-one conversation, you can actually change the way somebody thinks about something or make their day a little better or give them some positive influence or give them a skill that you know how to do that you can pass on to them. And so for me, it was something that I just became very passionate about and have continued to this day. It gives me great joy to see somebody find happiness in golf.
Suzy, as you know, I partner with the legends of the LPGA Tour to help promote the events on that great tour and those great legends of our game. And you've played in some of those events over the years. I think it's the most accessible field of great players out there on any tour. We've got the LPGA Legends Championship that's coming up a little bit later on this month, and the U.S. Senior Women's Open in August out in Chula Vista, California, plus several other great tournaments. We've got a couple here in Atlanta. Are we going to get to see you out playing on that tour this year?
You are. I'm going to play in a couple of events. I was going to I was trying to figure out how to qualify for the Senior Women's Open this year, but I'm actually covering the Tour Championship for PGA Tour Live the same week that is. So I'll plan a little better for next year. But I'm going to play in the Woodford's Legends Invitational, which I'm really excited about. Lita Lindley is my partner again, so I have an awesome partner, former U.S. Senior Women's Open champ. So good picking by me. And then I'm also going to play in the BJ's Championship, which is this cool event at the Ridge Club near the Cape in September. So I'm super excited to play in both of those, and both unbelievable events on the Legends Tour, and excited to be a part of it, excited to still compete. I still work on my game as often as I can, which lately hasn't been a lot, but I get excited competing, and I find that playing golf at a competitive level, whether I play it well or whether I play it poorly, it kind of inspires me to practice more and make sure I keep my game at the highest level that I possibly can. Because I think when you coach and when you travel within the game and you're representing the industry in whatever facet you're doing it, whether it be in for me commentating, or whether it be at Golf Nation, or whether it be my coaching, I always want to be able to walk the walk. I always want to be able to share the fact that I think playing the game has great importance if you are a golf professional.
Suzy, just a couple more before I let you go. And speaking of commentating, and you mentioned a moment ago that you're going to be doing the Tour Championship. Let our listeners know, when can we hear you broadcasting out there, whether it's on a PGA Tour event, an LPGA Tour event, or wherever we can hear you?
Yeah, I just pulled in. I'm doing the Truist Championship this week for PGA Tour Live. We'll be following. I'll be on a show tomorrow called On the Range on ESPN Plus, which is the digital streaming channels. And then we'll start the coverage on Thursday. I'll be on the Rory McIlroy, JT, and Tommy Fleetwood group. So you can tune in and have a listen if those are any of your favorite players there. And then I'm working the PGA Championship for ESPN. So I'll be doing some shows Tuesday, Wednesday, and then some coverage Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Quail Hollow. So that's really excited. And the Truist this year is at Philadelphia Cricket Club because the PGA Championship is at Quail Hollow. And then next year they'll flip-flop. So I'm doing those two events the next 2 weeks. So certainly I hope everybody tunes in.
Suzy, how can our listeners stay up to date with all the great things that you're out there doing, whether they're following you online or it's on social media?
Yeah, you know what? I try to post as best I can, Chris. I don't do a very good job of it, but man, you'll find me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. All my name, Suzy Whaley. It's easy to find me.
Suzy, it's always such a huge thrill having you as part of the show. You have been a wonderful supporter and an even better guest over the years here on Next on the Tee. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show again this week. You're fantastic. Well,
wait, before we leave, we got to congratulate you on your recent accolades for the show. So I just saw that. I can't remember if it was this morning or yesterday, but
this morning.
Congratulations. So well deserved. You do such an amazing job, and it's just always a pleasure and an honor to be a part of your success. So thanks for having me, but congratulations on all you do.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Suzy, you're the best, my friend. All the best to you and Jen and the rest of your family. I hope we get this privilege of catching up with you again a little bit later on in the year.
Me too, Chris. You have a great night.
Thanks, Suzy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
That is the great Suzy Whaley, folks. They don't come better than that lady. She is just such a wonderful person. She is the perfect person to be leading our junior players, and any other team that would be out there looking for a great captain. You should be calling Suzy Whaley. She is just one of the great people, and that just means so much to me. She's been, like I say, a wonderful supporter of this show. She's been so kind to me over the years. Words can't do justice for how much she means to me. And on top of that, so great for our game. She's a great mom. I so enjoyed having Jen on the show last fall. The great stuff Jen is out there doing is a testament to both of her parents and her upbringing. I'll try to get Jen back on the show, hopefully a little bit later on the summer as well. Like I say, this was the 6th time that Suzy was a part of the show, and I can't wait for number 7. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part 1 of this week's episode. My sincere thanks again to Bob Ford and Suzy Whaley for being here. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Boy, that was so much fun for me to be a part of. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as well. Come back now for part 2. LPGA Hall of Famer Jane Geddes is going to be here. She is a wonderfully enthusiastic person. So much fun. She makes every segment that she has been a part of the show so much fun to be a part of for me. So I hope you'll come back and enjoy that segment. A lot to get into with Jane as well. Like I say, the positivity and enthusiasm in her voice and the great storytelling that she adds to that is going to make that segment very, very enjoyable for all of us. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for everything that you mean to me and this show. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Coming down the mountain, I take a breath of sin. Can't tell the day or time, but I know this day will end. On a mission I can't see, they